In the heart of a desolate town, where shadows clung to abandoned buildings and the air whispered of secrets long buried, four strangers found themselves drawn together by an inexplicable force. Each carried within them a curiosity that borderlined obsession, a yearning to pierce the veil separating their world from the unknown. It began with Elias, a grave digger haunted by visions of things beyond the mortal realm. He had stumbled upon an ancient, brittle tome buried beneath the skeletal remains of a forgotten cemetery. The dusty pages spoke of a thin, fragile membrane separating reality from the other side, a boundary that, if broken, could reveal truths men were never meant to see. Driven by a compulsion he couldn't resist, Elias sought others who might share his obsession. Then met Mira, a gifted medium whose whispers of spirits no longer tethered to the physical world often bordered on madness. Her dreams were filled with whispers from beyond, urging her toward a destination she couldn't yet comprehend. Her intuition told her that tonight was pivotal, that something monumental awaited. Among them was Jonah, a scientist fascinated with quantum physics and the multiverse concept. His research confirmed the existence of dimensions layered just beyond human perception. Struggling with skepticism yet intrigued, he believed their collective effort could be the key to crossing the threshold safely. Lastly, there was Lena, a historian obsessed with ancient rituals and forbidden knowledge. She had spent years deciphering obscure manuscripts, each revealing glimpses of civilizations that had attempted to breach the same boundaries they now planned to challenge. They gathered in Elias's dimly lit cellar, a space cluttered with relics, candles, and handwritten notes. The air was thick with anticipation and trepidation, each aware of the peril yet irresistibly drawn to the potential glory of unveiling the other side. Elias ignited a fire in an old metal brazier, its flickering flames casting long, twisting shadows along the walls. Mira prepared centuries-old ritual tools, crenellated mirrors, incense, and cryptic symbols drawn on the floor with chalk, each carefully chosen for their supposed spiritual significance. Jonah studied the faint readings he had scribbled in the margins of his notebook, trying to synchronize his scientific mind with the mystical ritual about to unfold. Lena recited incantations from ancient texts, her voice trembling but firm. They formed a circle, the center overlaid with symbols representing the barrier they intended to shatter. The air grew heavy, almost alive, vibrating with a silent hum, a resonance that hinted at the colossal unseen forces at play. Mira began to chant, her voice rising in a cadence that seemed to pull at the very fabric of reality. The room's temperature plummeted as a strange, electric tension coursed through the air. The candles flickered erratically before exploding into sudden, brilliant light. For a moment, time itself seemed to quake, stretched and compressed by unseen hands. Suddenly, a ripple appeared, a shimmering, translucent veil that flickered like a mirage, between this world and the next. It was as if they were peering through a torn membrane of reality, a fragile curtain made of shimmering, ethereal threads. The boundary was paper-thin and trembling, showing glimpses of alien landscapes twisted with unearthly colors, impossible geometries, and figures that defied comprehension. In that instant, the room was flooded with a pulse of energy so potent that Myra's voice shattered into a scream. The veil surged, ripping away in a violent, shimmering explosion of light and shadow, and a presence seeped through, a being of pure energy, beyond form or understanding, but undeniably aware. It was as if the universe itself had exhaled, a collective breath held for eons. The entity's consciousness washed over them like a wave, filling their minds with visions of endless dimensions and cryptic messages in a language older than time. Shadows twisted into faces, angels, demons, ancient spirits, all converging into a singular, awe-inspiring being that pulsed with cosmic power. In those fleeting moments, Elias saw the birth of stars and the death of worlds. Mira heard voices from civilizations that once dared to breach the same barrier, voices of longing, regret, and ancient warnings. Jonah's scientific mind was overwhelmed by chaos and order intertwined, a glimpse of multiverse threads weaving in and out of existence. Lena felt her understanding of history shattering, her ancient scripts now mere echoes of a forgotten struggle against the same unknown forces. The entity's presence seemed to judge them, to test their resolve, their humility, and their respect for the beyond. But then came the shift, a sudden, violent backlash. The entity recoiled, the veil snapping shut with a deafening crack that echoed through dimensions. The shockwave knocked them to the ground, their ears ringing with the residual hum of the other side. As the dust settled, they sat in silence, eyes wide with awe and fear. Elias trembled, knowing he had glimpsed something beyond human comprehension. Myra's hands shook, her connection to the spiritual realm forever altered. Jonah stared at the empty space where the shimmering veil had once been, now an ominous void, an abyss where stars and worlds seemed to flicker just beyond reach. Lena clutched her chest, feeling both exhilaration and dread coursing through her veins. They all knew they had pushed past a boundary that was never meant to be crossed, and that the consequences of this breach might forever change their understanding of reality. The room was eerily silent, save for the faint crackling of dying candles and the heavy breath of 4 trembling souls. They looked at each other, each conscious of the magnitude of what they had just experienced, yet unsure of what to do next. The boundaries between worlds had been peeked behind, so fragile, yet so formidable. Elias broke the silence, his voice trembling. "We saw it, I saw it. The other side, it's alive, intelligent, vast, and utterly terrifying." His eyes shone with a haunted fervor, as if the glimpse had activated some dormant part of his psyche. Mira nodded, her face pale but glowing with an unexplainable light. "It's not just a realm of spirits or ghosts. It's a living universe, layers upon layers, and we just tore a tiny hole into it. You felt the energy, the consciousness, like it was aware of us, watching us." Jonah's scientific mind wrestled with the reality of what he had seen, but he recognized the undeniable truth in their shared experience. The multiverse we've read about, the quantum theories I've studied, they're real. The universe is more complex than we ever imagined. Our experiment just proved that. Lena, tears streaming down her face, looked at the symbols they had drawn on the floor. "We are not just explorers in the dark, you and I, Elias, Mira. We've all touched something sacred, something dangerous. We broke a thin membrane that kept worlds apart, and I fear we may have unleashed something no one can control." Suddenly, a faint hum vibrated through the room, a whispering sound that seemed to resonate from the very walls, then grew louder, morphing into a chorus of incomprehensible voices. The entity they had glimpsed returned, not with the terrifying energy of before, but with a haunting, mournful tone, an echo of ancient voices crying out in despair and longing. It was as if 1,000 lost souls were lamenting, pleading for release. And then, just as abruptly as it had appeared, the sensation faded. The veil re-solidified, the shimmering curtain snapping shut with a deafening crack that seemed to shake the foundations of their minds. Silence settled again, deep, unnatural silence, broken only by their ragged breathing and the distant, fading whispering echoes. The 4 friends sat in stunned silence, knowing that their actions had altered something fundamental. They had peered into the abyss, and while they had pulled back, the shadow of their intrusion lingered, a reminder of the thin, delicate boundary that separates worlds. Time lost all meaning as they processed what they had seen. Elias's hands trembled as he checked his notes, verifying their experience. Mira looked at her hands, feeling the residual energy thrumming beneath her skin, a persistent reminder that the spiritual realm had been touched, forever changed. Jonah pondered the implications of multiversal pathways now glimpsed and possibly accessible by others seeking power or knowledge. Lena's mind raced with the historical warnings she had uncovered, now validated in ways no ancient text or ritual could have predicted. They knew with certainty that the universe was far more mysterious, and far more dangerous, than anyone dared believe. The thin membrane that kept dimensions apart was not just fragile, it was alive, conscious, and dangerously temptress. Many would have called them fools for tempting fate, others would dismiss their story as madness. But they knew the truth. They had broken through, even if only for a fleeting moment. As dawn approached, shadows stretched across the desolate town, casting long, sinister silhouettes. The four stood together, united in their experience and their fear, realizing that they had stared into the infinite, and that the infinite might now be staring back. Their lives would never be the same. The boundary was breached, the veil forever scarred. What lay beyond was no longer just a distant possibility, it was now a part of their reality, lurking at the edge of sleep and wakefulness. And somewhere deep within, they felt the presence, the watchful eye of the other dimension, waiting, perhaps, for their next move. The courage and the recklessness that had ignited this journey might be their salvation or their undoing. Only time would tell. But for now, they knew they had touched the infinite, a feat that would haunt them forever, or perhaps, transform them into something greater, something beyond human comprehension. And as the first light of dawn broke across the abandoned landscape, a faint, almost imperceptible ripple trembled through the fabric of existence, an echo of the breach, and a warning whispered in the cosmic winds. In the days that followed, the four friends found themselves haunted by the echoes of that night. Elias couldn't sleep. Every shadow and whisper seemed alive, sometimes flickering with the faint glow of distant stars or the ghostly semblance of otherworldly landscapes. His mind raced with images of what he saw, the swirling chaos, the conscious energy that had brushed against him and then receded. Myra's trance-like calm was shattered by visions that refused to fade. She would close her eyes and see the shimmering membrane, the terrifying beauty of the other side, and the mournful voices of the lost. Her connection to the spiritual realm had become more fragile, yet somehow more vivid. She sensed that entities beyond her comprehension lingered near, etched into her every thought. Jonah, flooded with cosmic theories, pored over his notes and data. What he had experienced defied all classical science. He believed that the universe itself was a living entity, an interconnected web, with the thin membrane acting as a sort of spiritual physical interface, more fragile than he had dared to imagine. His fascination was now tinged with dread. He knew that unlocking this portal could unleash chaos if mishandled. Lena, the historian, was both awestruck and terrified. She revisited her ancient texts and deciphered their cryptic warnings anew. The old civilizations had tried, and failed, to pierce the same boundary. She feared their fate was intertwined with theirs now, that perhaps they had only glimpsed a sliver of something ancient and eternal. Little did they realize, the breach might have awakened forces that never intended to be disturbed. But then strange occurrences began.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future ideas that challenge us to think outside the box. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, and don't forget to always maintain that curiosity that drives progress. Also, explore even more fascinating content on our channel. From life-changing tips and cutting-edge technology, to the mysteries of spirituality, travel to various countries, delicious recipes, health hacks, and language learning, there's something here to spark your curiosity and elevate your life. Dive in and discover a world of knowledge awaits us.